Good evening, everybody. My name is Joseph. In this presentation, I'm going to talk about my Capstone project. In this ISBA course, I am developing or I'm designing a pinless automatic teller machine that's an ATM machine for Asumdue Rural Bank. Asumdue Rural Bank is a bank located at Sefi Ose Kujokrom, western part of Ghana, and it does financial and banking services. The problem of this bank is that for some time now, it has been facing customer acquisition and customer retention problems due to illiteracy among the farmers within the community, who are also majority and also people who could save with the bank. Due to illiteracy problem, the customer does not get the bank does not get a lot of customers, and those who are already there are also facing a lot of problems because they are unable to cash monies during weekends, and so they prefer to keep their monies at home instead of keeping it in a bank, and not able to take them during weekends. And so the purpose for this project is to design a new ATM system that does not require a PIN for customers to access their ATM, to access the ATM. And so you just need a fingerprint as shown on the screen. You need a fingerprint to be able to access the ATM system. This will allow all farmers who are also illiterate to access the ATM system, and so will end up increasing customer base, which eventually affect revenue of the bank. So for this purpose, a project is initiated to develop or to design the new system as I indicated. The project objectives include designing a pinless ATM system and also having a project management team. For this purpose, I am going to be the project manager, the analyst, the designer, and also the client. And so we have the project scope that involves project requirement, assumptions, constraints, risk, and then dependencies. So this project uses the Scrum methodology. The Scrum methodology is an agile framework that uses sprint models. So in this project, I am going to base on 6 sprint models. Each sprint has each delivery, so each deliverable, and each deliverable is also subject to change at any time due to the principles of Scrum methodology. It's very flexible to make changes at any time. So in order to advance the design of the project, we needed to do data analysis. Unfortunately, it was difficult to get an empirical data from the bank in order to conduct this analysis, and so data was extracted. ATM transaction data was extracted from Kaggle to do some basic analysis. And from the analysis, we realized that weekend, Saturdays, Sundays are the highest days that customers actually visit ATM systems. If that is the case, then it was in line that the bank needed a new ATM because on weekends the banks don't work, and so once you don't work and customer has his money, they need the money, and illiterates who cannot access it will prefer to keep their money home to keeping it at the bank. So we come to the system interface, how the system design itself. So on my left side is the system interface that you see that has some cash and its denominations. This is how the system interface is going to be. So there's a question that, so if the customer is able to use a pinless system, what about how to key in the money. So the monies are displayed on the interface, on the system interface, the ATM interface, and then they are displayed based on denominations. They are displayed based on how much the customer wants. And so if the customer wants one of each denomination, the customer will just press on it, and then the money is being, acquired or is being taken. The customer needs several of them. It's just a matter of pressing them, and then take those monies. What I want us to understand here is that reading money is different from recognizing money. Illiterates are able to recognize money no matter how much is it, and even buy things and take change. And so displaying it this way is not a problem. It's a very good thing. So the next thing I want us to talk about is the system architecture. When you check the left side of the screen, you see how the architecture, how the system is going to be. It's going to be divided into 6 parts, where we have the top, the side, the middle, and then the other sides. And then we have the right side of it, we have the conceptual structure of the system, how it's going to be the central system, and then its surrounding component. Then the system is going to go with network diagram. So the network diagram is what connects the different part of the system together, making it function well. So when you look at this system, you realize that cloud is being used as the central system, and all the other systems are connected. So we have the computer, the main bank's computer, we have cameras that will work as security, and then we have databases where customer informations are going to be kept, and then the biometric vendors who will be in charge of managing the biometric system. So we decided to visualize the new ATM system with some diagrams to show how the system is going to operate. So first, from my left is going to be the activity diagram. So this is what describes how the customer is going to, the processes that the customer is going to go through by accessing the ATM with the pinless system. So the customer starts the activity, the customer inserts card. So once the card is invalid, automatically the activity ends. When the card is valid, that's where we have the yes. Then it requests the customer to scan the fingerprint. So that is where the fingerprints will just show on the screen. Then the customer puts the fingers there. Then the fingerprints extract the image. The system extract the fingerprint image and then forward it to the database, where the database is going to compare it to the existing data, or the existing data in the main bank. Then once it matches, it shows successful, then it moves forward to the bank. If it doesn't show successful, the process ends and then the card is ejected. But once it moves into the bank takes action on it, and then the process allows the customer to continue and then access their money. So at the middle, we have the sequence diagram. This is what shows how the customer is going to interact with the system and the bank. So the customer is the first line, and then the blue thing you see is the timeline. So the customer comes in, starts the processes, and the process, you see all the arrows that are heading towards the right are the actions that are going into the system and then into the bank. So from the customer, inserts card is verified, and then verify account to see if customer is actually a member or a customer of the bank. And then all the arrows that are the solid arrows that are moving towards the customer side from the bank are all feedbacks that are going to the bank. And interestingly, we have what we call alternative means. So the alternative is what, when an action fails, what happens, else process continues. So here when the customer does a fingerprint scan, if it is good, then the process continues. If it is not, then you see those arrows, those break arrows that are moving towards the customer. They are the the alternatives. They are the alternatives. And then when we come to the right side of the screen, we have the data flow diagram. This shows how data is flowing in the system. In order to make this project very comprehensive and understandable, we have to focus on fingerprint, because fingerprint is the central idea or the central focus of this project. And so I decided to create a database to store customer information as well as the fingerprint, to just make it known that the fingerprint is going to function. It's going to be the central function of this process. So on my left is the conceptual model of the database, where we have customer information, the bank information, and then the ATM information. So the customer information, what I want us to focus on is the fingerprint, which is showing there at the last but one, that is the fingerprint ID. This fingerprint ID, when you come to the middle schema, you realize that the fingerprint ID is going to be seen as a foreign key. It's going to be seen as a foreign key, whilst in the customer side it is a main key, like one of the the primary keys. And so the bank and then the customer are all having their IDs in the system as a foreign key or as foreign keys, and the fingerprint is the central role of this focus or of this project. So when you come to the physical model is going to be how the actual design is going to be. So the physical model comes with the primary keys and the foreign keys, as well as data type and data size of the database. And I used SQL Workbench to create the database. Talking about the project, we cannot forget about project evaluation. So project evaluation, we have the maintainability. Maintainability refers to the probability that the system can repair or can be repaired at a defined environment or at a defined environment within a specific time frame. So at any given time, this machine or this system should be able to go through repairs. It's not as if once the money finishes, the system is going to be condemned, or once there's a problem, then we have to throw the system away. No, the system should be able to go through maintenance. Scalability refers to where the system should work significantly and respond to customer needs. And then we talk about vulnerabilities and security. This comes in during development. So the system should be developed such that there will not be any vulnerable points for criminals to use it as a yardstick to steal data and information. We also talk about legal and ethical concerns. So in software development or software designs, critical attention needs to be paid on legal and ethical issues, especially with Scrum methodology, where we work in sprints. Working in sprint means that there's some form of bind between the client and then the designer. Once the project starts, it is bind. You cannot just go ahead and then just break the agreement. That is why we have the legal and ethical issues. The ethical issues, once the system gets customer information, the information is going to be used for transactions solely. Any other thing is going to be against privacy, which is unethical. Then we come to data user stories. User stories are developed for Scrum and then Agile projects. This statements are short statements that describe how the customer is going to use the system. So these are designed in the customer perspective. So these are 3 examples that I gave. There are a lot in the actual. And then we come here to the last PowerPoint. We talk about a comprehensive assessment, that a security assessment that needs to be done once the project is initiated and implemented. At any given time, there should be security assessment to track any unwanted or any foreign attacks on the machine. Criminals will prepare a malware-driven drive in advance and then switch the original drive so that they can steal. They also use what we call black box attack to steal information. Mostly they use malware such as schema and Trojan to steal funds and data, customer data, to be able to do a lot of crimes. So we have the project closure where the client takes the final delivery and then confirms that everything is okay, and then celebrations are done here. Documentations are handed over for further referencing. It is interesting to understand that this project has limitations. One of the greatest limitations has to do with lack of empirical data set to analyze what exactly was happening to the bank. Time is also a problem, using within this few time, and then one person acting as project manager, project data analyst, and other things does not permit me to do the project as I want from my heart. Lack of funds is also a problem because I needed some technological resources to especially do correct diagrams, but because I didn't have money to purchase those things, I had to just use the online facilities where I had to take snapshots, which does not make the system, the diagrams come clearer. I also have problem with lack of extensive knowledge. As a student, I wasn't able to develop it in a professional way where professionals will see and say, oh, okay, this is a very nice thing. So to conclude, I think the project in all was good. Everything was good. I have learned a lot from it, and I have realized that when there's a problem, there's the need for data analysis and a whole lot. These are my referencing. Thank you.